podcast where we cover everything gaming and general internet news. This is your host, Michael Holloman, the one and only, and today I bring you some positive news regarding a couple new games that came out recently, some of which may interest you. Let's start with the relatively positive feedback that Sonic Frontiers has been receiving after its first few weeks of launch. Now, the Sonic series has been on a pretty slippery slope, a rocky road of sorts, on its games. You see, Sega, the owners of the Sonic IP, have been in the industry for years now. For decades they had the Sonic IP, but still can't seem to perfect how to best use the blue blur in his games. As you can see, in most of his games, it looks like they take some steps forward, but also take a few steps back. So he's stuck between his games. They're not good, but they're not bad. They're kinda decent, meh. But after Sonic Frontiers, this actually looks like it's a great big positive. Despite there being graphical issues with pop-in and the overworld's ignoring level design with all the different objects just randomly floating in the air, the game presents a lot of good things that kinda outshine them, makes up for them. These include Sonic now being able to combo against different enemies, Sonic now being able to run around in a bigger open space where he can fully utilize his high speeds, and of course, as always with many, if not all Sonic games, the amazing soundtrack that is 8 hours long of either original compositions or remix songs. Also, the new additions of the cyberspace levels are one of the best things in this game since they show off nice, creative level design, unlike the overworld. And one last thing I like to mention are the boss fights. The boss fights, they kind of look cool, but they're also backed by amazing music that became hits within the first few days in the gaming community. After years of failure after failure, Sega finally managed to put out a good Sonic game. This is shown through how well it's selling, with its best example being its performance in Japan. It became the fastest selling mainline Sonic game since Sonic Adventure 2, which came out in 2001. Currently, within its first week, it sold over 20,000 copies, and worldwide, it sold over 46,000. Though it may be affected somewhat by the popularity of the Sonic movies, it doesn't detract from the pretty positive reception it's getting from both Sonic fans and gamers outside of the Sonic community. Again, this game was the thing that the Sonic series needed the most to revitalize it. And now it's here. Sonic fans can now rejoice that they finally have a good game. They finally have a game that they can be proud of. Finally have a game that they can enjoy that's not Sonic Boom or Sonic Lost World. We don't talk about those. Well, I think that's enough fanboying from a guy that's only played a single Sonic game, with it being Lost World. A Sonic game that's pretty high up there in a list of meh Sonic games. Well, with all that said and done, let's get into the advertisement talk.
Are you broke and struggling to put food on the table? Are you looking for a form of subsistence that both sustains you, is cheap, and is also convenient? Well, first of all, you're down in the trenches. Well, anyways, let me tell you my secret. It's bowl noodles! For $2, you can get this delicious bowl of noodles to get you through your day. Contained in a finest grade of plastic, it is now microwavable. You don't have to clean any dishes, you already have the bowl. First you douse your noodles in warm water from your faucet, then toss that sucker in your microwave for 3 minutes and you're good to go.
For a free bowl of Mochan Ball Noodle with your orders, call 111-1111-Noodle. Call 111-1111-Noodle for a free bowl of Mochan Bowl Noodle.
Welcome back to the Gaming Gossiper Podcast. How was the ad? How was the ad? Okay, I said that last episode. Let me stop. For the second and final topic of today's episode, we're going to talk about the overwhelming success of God of War Ragnarok, Sony's beloved PlayStation exclusive that came out only a few weeks ago. A continuation of the extremely popular God of War 2018, God of War Ragnarok didn't fail to disappoint. Critically acclaimed by gamers and critics, it has gained top scores across the board, being claimed a masterpiece in its field. In just a week, this game sold over 5 million copies worldwide, which is a quarter of God of War 2018's overall lifetime sales on the PlayStation 4. That's really impressive. Now sadly, it's a PlayStation exclusive, so I can't play it because I own a console that has no games. So I have to wait for it to come to PC. Now back to the game. It seems that everything is an improvement from its predecessor. The combat, the story, the movement, pretty much everything has been improved upon. Santa Monica, the developer of this game, has taken everything to heart, including big ones such as enemy variety being lacking in the predecessor and improving upon it. However, I think that there's a few problems with this game, one of which is pacing. The best example I can think of that involves pacing issues is the very end. At the very end, the game feels rushed, considering what's happening at the time. It felt too brief for something that has such a high consequence, and I didn't really like it. They could have done better, made it burn slower, and slow down the pace a bit, and maybe the ending of the game will feel a lot better. Another thing that I think that this game lacks is the lack of animation that feels grand, unlike the 2018 and the earlier 3-game trilogy. I just find it a little disappointing that there's less large objects getting thrown around, there's less large leaps of traversal during battle, and there's not as much environmental damage as you expect from gods battling each other. But other than that, that's all I really have to say about God of War Ragnarok. With that said and done, that wraps up this episode of the Gaming Gossiper Podcast. Thanks for coming, and remember,